All right, so today we're gonna dive into something that I think a lot of folks listening will find really interesting, and that's morning devotion.
Okay.
And specifically, we're going to be looking at one particular devotional entry that focuses on Matthew 6:33.
Right.
Seek first His kingdom.
Yeah.
You know, I think we're going to unpack what it really means to prioritize God
Mm.
in our lives. How aligning our desires with His will
Mm-hmm.
really impacts us, and even kind of delve into some of those thought-provoking questions around His provisions.
Yeah. It's fascinating to me because I think that verse, we use it a lot in the context of morning devotion, but it really speaks to something much bigger. It's
Yeah.
not just about carving out that time for prayer, but it's really about making God's kingdom like the very foundation of everything that we do.
I think that's a great point because I think a lot of times people think about morning devotion as, okay, I've got my quiet time,
Yeah.
I've done my reading, I've said my prayers, and then I'm good to go for the day.
Right.
But I think what this verse is really getting at and what this devotional is diving into is that it's really a way of life.
Yeah.
It's not just a small segment of your day. It's
Yeah.
really something that should permeate everything that you do.
And how you view the world and how you approach your work and your relationships. I mean, it really is kind of a lens through which you can view everything.
Absolutely. And, the entry starts with the verse itself. But seek first His kingdom and His righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you.
Right.
It's really an active pursuit, not just a passive hope.
Yeah.
And that word seek, to me, really jumps out because it implies intentionality.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a conscious choice to prioritize God's kingdom and make that the focus.
And it makes you ask, like, what does that actually look like?
Right.
What does that mean?
In the busyness of everyday life, what does it actually mean to seek first the kingdom?
Yeah, because, we can say, okay, God first, but do our actions really reflect that? In our decision making and our reactions and just the daily grind of life.
Yeah, are we truly putting Him first, or are we kind of,
Yeah, is it just lip service?
lip service, or are we fitting Him into our schedule as opposed to
Right.
building our schedule around Him?
Yeah, and I don't think it's necessarily about denying your own ambitions.
Right.
It's about aligning those ambitions with a much larger purpose.
Absolutely. And I think that's where the devotional really kind of dives into this concept of provision.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times people think about provision as just material needs.
Yeah, right, just the basics.
God will provide for my food and my shelter and my clothing.
Right. Keep the lights on.
But I think what this devotional is getting at is that true provision,
Yeah.
the kind that flows from aligning ourselves with God's will. It's so much more than that.
It really is. And it's about that deep sense of peace and purpose and joy that comes from living in harmony with our Creator.
Yes, and I think a lot of times that gets lost in the shuffle of just trying to get through the day,
Right, just survival mode.
Yeah, but when we really focus on seeking first His kingdom, that's when we start to experience that true provision.
Yeah. And that's where I think the devotional gets really practical because it gives us this exercise. It
Yeah.
says, list 3 ways you can put God first in your daily life.
It's so simple.
You know?
It is, but is it too simple?
Right, because I think that's the challenge, is to move beyond just a checklist mentality.
Right, it's not about checking boxes.
Right.
It's really about cultivating that heart posture that is consistently seeking God's kingdom in every moment.
I think that's so important because it's easy to fall into the trap of, okay, I've done my 3 things, I'm good.
Right.
But it's really about that ongoing pursuit of God's will and making that the center of our lives.
And the text mentions some really good examples, like seeking guidance in decision making,
Mm-hmm.
prioritizing prayer,
Mm.
and using your gifts to serve others.
Mm-hmm. But I think we have to go deeper than that,
Right.
What does it mean to seek first when you're faced with a tough ethical dilemma at work
Right.
or when you're trying to navigate a really difficult relationship?
Or when you're going through a season of suffering.
Yeah.
Exactly. Where do you find that seeking first in those moments?
Yeah. And I think that's a powerful challenge because it's easy to get caught up in the routine of morning devotion.
Right.
But this is saying, let's take that focus and apply it to the whole day.
To every aspect of our lives.
And that leads us to the closing prayer in this devotional. It says, Lord, help me to seek your kingdom above all else and trust in your provision. Amen.
Yeah.
And, I love that prayer because it acknowledges that we're not in this alone.
Yeah.
We can lean on God for guidance and strength and provision in those tough moments.
And it's a reminder that aligning our lives with God's will is a journey.
There's a process.
It's not something that happens overnight.
Right.
We don't have to strive for perfection.
We have great.
We have His grace to guide us.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
to kind of sum it all up,
Mm-hmm.
seeking first the kingdom is not about checking boxes.
Yeah.
It's not about adhering to this rigid set of rules.
Mm-hmm.
It's about a fundamental shift in perspective,
Yes.
a conscious choice to make God's will our guiding principle in every single area of our lives.
And that leaves us with a really thought-provoking question, I think, for our listeners.
Okay.
What if, instead of confining this concept to our morning routine,
Mm-hmm.
we viewed seeking first the kingdom as a lens through which we approach every decision,
Every interaction.
every challenge throughout the day?
Yeah.
How might that change our experience of work, our relationships,
Even moments of difficulty.
even the really tough times?
Yeah.
That's a question I think we all need to wrestle with.
It really is.
So we encourage you to, keep exploring this concept.
Yeah.
Let it shape your choices. Let it guide your steps and see what God does in your life.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into seeking first the kingdom.
Yeah, we hope it sparked some new insights and encouraged you to continue seeking God's will in all that you do.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening.
Take care. Bye-bye.